Hi, students. It's Mr. B. I'm here with some Friday announcements today. There's a couple things I need to talk about. First of all, your teachers are going to share some important information with you, second and third grade. This is for second and third grade, this part only, about state diagnostic in-person student testing. Second and third graders, and I'll probably include this again on Monday in the announcements, but second and third graders, the week is September 21st. You are going to come to school for a couple hours for one day. The state of Ohio requires that we test second and third graders. And usually when we're in the building, we just test you here. They're called MAPS tests. So you guys will be familiar with those. But since you're not in the building, we need to bring you in because we need to test you. Okay. So it'll be a reading test, a reading MAPS test. So first graders who are now second graders, the first graders took the test. They know what MAPS tests are. You took them last year. Second graders who are now third graders, you know what MAPS tests are because you took them last year. All right, twice. You took them in the fall and the winter. Then we were supposed to take them in the spring, but we weren't at school. So anyway, your teachers are going to share some information, important information about busing and getting you here and when you're going to come to school and take that test. Okay, and some very specific things that your parents need to do. Okay, so that's that. There's a couple more things. There's one really, really important thing that's coming in just a minute, but these are pretty important too. Look at this. I wish I could like do this. Like, I have so many positive office referrals. Teachers, thank you, thank you, thank you to the teachers. They're doing a great job writing kids up. Hayden Clark, Giovanni Rodriguez, Cameron Snyder, Parker Colwell. They did something amazing in fourth grade. Their teacher couldn't be on because we had the internet shut down the other day, and their teacher couldn't be on. And so what these kids did, and Hayden became a teacher. He taught and worked with the other kids, and they just kept doing their work, even though our internet here at Nolensville shut down. You guys, your internet didn't shut down. Ours, we had a problem with the phone lines or something like that. But Hayden and those boys, they just kept working. That is super responsible, and I love it. Marilyn Harwood was written up in second grade for Mrs. Brackey. She is responsible. She keeps her assignments up to date. And then listen to these. Okay, I have so many that I just have to give you names. Okay, I can't read what every person was. I'll just read the occasional one. What people were written up for. Evelyn from Mrs. Weymouth's class. She is doing awesome at virtual learning. Esme Ellinger just completes all her work. Esme, Supergirl as well. Bailey Lewis was written up by Miss Hampshire. Jayla Radcliffe was written up by Mrs. Weymouth. Braden Van Meter from Miss Lears in third grade. Gatlin Sizemore. Gabriel Spencer. Sophia Schoenfeld from from Mrs. Savage. Miss Lears wrote up Cameron Wright. He's friendly and he participates well in their Google Meets. I love it. Emily Chaplin was written about by Mrs. Kottmeyer. Calvin McGee, was written up by Mrs. Kottmeyer. He does great during online work. His assignments are completed and on time. That means he was responsible. Charlotte Koronich was written up by Mrs. Gray, and then Mrs. Kottmeyer wrote up Paisley Allen, Haley Harden, Miss Gray, Morgan Miller, Jose Arevalos, Evan Hatton, Hensley Ritchie, Asura Bucio, J.C. Priest. Oh, there's a bunch of them. Liam Jones, Mrs. Gray loves to write up kids, obviously. These are all from Mrs. Gray's. Liam Armentrout. He has a good heart. He's cheerful and cooperative. He compliments people in his classroom. That's just really kind. Thank you, Liam. I think I said that right. Yeah. Jackson Diamond, written up by Mrs. Gray. Joshan Torres, written up by Mrs. Gray. He pays attention. He participates in class. He gives examples of what they're talking about. So that is the newest batch. I read all those. That was a lot this week. Teachers are amazing. We had 20 some positive office referrals this week. So that was amazing. Today, guys, is a super important day. Today is Patriot Day or 9/11 Remembrance Day. Okay. You are watching these announcements on Friday, September 11th. Some of you know the significance of September 11th. If you do not, I'm not going to explain all that. Maybe your teachers will talk about it a little bit in your Google Meets today. I'm not going to explain all that, but it was a time about 19 years ago, I think, when our country was attacked, especially in New York City. All right, we had the Twin Towers that came down because some people who were anti-America, anti the way we live our life and our country. They flew some planes into the Twin Towers, and those towers came down, and several thousand people died. It was a horrible time in the history of the United States. So that was about 19 years ago. All your teachers remember it. I remember it. It was just a really tragic day. But on September 11, we remember that event. We don't remember it to be depressed and stuff. We don't want that. But we remember it because we remember the sacrifice of the firefighters and the first responders, the police officers, the doctors, the nurses that tried to help and take care of those thousands of people. Because there were some people, unfortunately, that died, a lot of people that died. But there were also people that were injured, that were taken care of by doctors and nurses and people like that at hospitals. So we kind of remember this day as a day of remembrance, but also a day of thankfulness for those first responders, okay, who helped people out. All right, and also a day to remember the families that were affected by those deaths as well. Mrs. Landis, a third grade teacher, shared a book with me because I said, Mrs. Landis, I want to read a book about 9/11. She shared this with me, and this is a good one. So I'm going to read this to you. This will take us a little bit, but be patient. It's a good story, okay? It's called Fireboat, The Heroic Adventures of the John J. Harvey. All right, and this is a true story, okay? And here we go. New York City, 1931. Amazing things were happening, big and small. The Empire State Building went up, up, up. Babe Ruth hit his 611th home run in Yankee Stadium. And the tasty candy treat, Snickers, hit the stores. Yum. Glad that happened. And there's Babe Ruth. Oops, there's Babe Ruth for you baseball fans. And the Snickers for you chocolate fans like myself. The George Washington Bridge was suspended elegantly across the mighty Hudson River. There's a big river in New York that goes through in New York City called the Hudson River. Champion Pendley, Calling of Blarney, won Best in Show at the Westminster Kennel Club. Oh, there's a doggy. Sorry, this is backwards. On a hot and jazzy night, the word hotcha was invented. I don't think I've ever used that word. Hotcha. Hotcha, 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 hotcha. I didn't know. And on a sunny, fresh day, the John J. Harvey fireboat was launched. There were 12 fireboats in New York City. The Harvey was the largest, fastest, and shiniest fireboat of them all. Do you know how many people New York City has in it? This is just mind-boggling to me. Fascinating. What do you guess? Go ahead and make a guess out loud. No, too low. Probably still too low. Yep, too low. I think they have around 8 million people in the city. That's a lot of people. Now, it's a big city, but 8 million people in and around that city. Wow. The Harvey was the largest, fastest, and shiniest fireboat of them all. And a fireboat does just what you think. It puts out fires from the water. Kind of cool, huh? Because the water's right there. It can just suck in the water and spray them out of these cannons right here. Sorry. Right over here. Ah, man, this is hard backwards. Sorry. And there's lots of water cannons. See all those water cannons? I think that's a great invention, a fireboat, especially if your city is by the water like New York. It had 5 diesel engines, so it could go 20 miles per hour. That's pretty fast. It had a control dial in the pilot's cabin. It had 8 pipes that could shoot 16,000 gallons of water per minute. That's equal to 20 fire trucks. It had a completely round steering wheel, many brass nozzles housed in the gold room, a very nice can to check oil, all squeaks, ropes called lines, and lots of levers, buttons, and buckets. There was a pilot and a crew ready in 2 minutes to fight the fires. They were a brave group, and there was a dog named Smokey who did not put out the fires, but had many nice spots. The Harvey went up and down the river fighting fires. It fought fires at the bustling piers. The piers were the places where ships and trains brought all manner of merchandise to be sold in the city, like wood and cotton and bananas and bubble gum and everything. So those are the pictures of the piers right there. And the boats would pull in there and they would take the merchandise off the boats and then they would sell it in stores. It fought the fire of the great ocean liner Normandy. Sometimes the Harvey just went out to shoot water in celebration. Many years passed, a new captain had come on board, Bob Lenny. He and his crew fought many fires, but New York was changing. The Twin Towers were now the tallest buildings in New York City, and the piers were closing. $1995. 1995. That was 25 years ago, right? Where was I? I was teaching at Park Lane Elementary. That was almost my first year of teaching, my first full year of teaching in 5th grade. The city no longer needed so many fireboats. The Harvey was considered old and useless. It sat in the water for 5 years, waiting to be sold for scrap. And then a very surprising thing happened. A group of friends were eating at a restaurant called Florent. They had heard about the fireboat and decided something. Let's save the Harvey. Let's buy her. Everyone needs a fireboat. We won't put out fires. We'll just have fun. And they did. They bought Harvey. They took it to Cadell's ship repair yard in Staten Island. Even there, they said, she is old. It will be hard to fix her. But the owner said, fix her. So they fixed beautifully. They repaired the 2 propellers, making them new and shiny, making them a new shiny coat of brass. Brass does not rust, so that would be a good thing to have in the water, right? They repaired the holes with steel plates and covered the places where the rivets wept. They scraped barnacles and seaweed off the hull and painted her with a shiny coat of red paint. Tim the engineer keeping things running smoothly. Huntley at the wheel, Jessica the assistant engineer at the controls in the noisy engine room. Andrew was welding, Chase was helping, John was fixing, Tim was cooking, and Bob Lenny watched over everyone and was very proud. They're getting it all fixed up. They made friends with the only other fireboats on the river, the Firefighter and the McKean. Everyone said the Harvey is a nice old boat, but she could never be used to fight a fire. Never. But then, on September 11th, 2001, something so huge and horrible happened that the whole world shook. It was 8:45 in the morning. Another beautiful and sunny day. Two airplanes crashed into the Twin Towers. Crashed into these two strong buildings. The sky filled with fire and smoke. The buildings exploded and fell down to the ground. Many people were hurt, and many lives were lost. Such a horrible, horrible event. The news spread. The city had been attacked. Everyone was terrified, but people were brave. The entire city sprang into action. Firefighters and police officers and doctors and teachers and construction workers and cooks and children and parents. The mayor was strong. He said, "We will all work together. We will not be broken." What were the people of the Harvey doing when the planes hit? Bob Lenny was trimming hedges. Tom was drinking tea in his kitchen. Chase was walking his dog Radar. Tim was reading the paper. Andrew was welding. John was working. Huntley was reading David Copperfield. Jessica was writing a story. The Harvey was snoozing at the pier. Then all had one thought: get to the Harvey. And they did. They called the fire department. "John J. Harvey, ready to help. How can we help?" The answer came: "You can't help fight the fire, but you can ferry people to safety." But suddenly an urgent message came loud and clear: "John J. Harvey, where are you? We need you. We need you." The water pipes were broken and buried, and the fire trucks that had raced to the scene could not pump water. The firefighters attached hoses to the Harvey. The Harvey fought the fires alongside the McKean and the other boat called the Firefighter. So the Harvey was needed after all. 4 days and nights, the Harvey pumped water. The crew took turns sleeping. People brought supplies: fuel, sweaters, gloves, pizza, sandwiches, and coffee. They worked and they cried. They fought the fire until it was under control. Finally, it was time for the Harvey to go home. Everyone, on the boat had never seen anything so terrible, and they had never felt so proud. The Harvey was a hero, and everyone knew it. The Harvey won an important award. It was called the National Preservation Award, John J. Harvey, for capping a distinguished career of service by coming out of retirement to provide invaluable aid in New York City's hour of need. October 18th, 2001. At the ceremony, the audience cheered and some even cried. Now the Twin Towers are gone. Something new will be built, which it has been built. There's a memorial there that you can see if you go to New York City. The heroes who died will be remembered forever. The Harvey is back to being a very happy boat, not scrapped, not useless, not forgotten. A proud and plucky friend, and all that's left to say is hacha and thank you. Wait a minute. There's something more to say. The friends of the Harvey have found a little tugboat to adopt. Doesn't everyone need a tugboat? They bought another boat. The end. That's a true story that deals with helping out at 9/11, 19 years ago. I would encourage you to talk about Patriot Day and remembering 9/11 with your parents. It'll be interesting to ask your mom and dad where they were the 19 years ago. Some of your parents were just a few years old. Some of your parents were in middle school or elementary school or high school when that happened. All right. So talk to your family about it. But do me a favor. Um, when we remember something, we think about the people an event affected. It affected a lot of people in the United States. Think about those people today, please. Um, Maybe if you like to pray, you could say a little prayer for their families of the people who died, or just think about them and how thankful we are for the people who stepped and helped on 9/11. Okay. Um, Thank you for listening. I know this was a long section of announcements, but I wanted you to read that book and to talk about 9/11 and Patriot Day. Okay. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next Monday for announcements.